Hi Year 7s, this is the final lesson of the work for Design Technology, and we're going to be looking at the process of taking a tree, like this one here, from being a tree into being a workable piece of timber. Okay, so the first stage is obviously for it to be cut down, whether it's through mechanical or by hand. And it will be normally carried out in winter because that's when the trees have less moisture in them. Okay, at the end of this process we need to have moisture taken out of the timber in order for it to be a workable piece of wood, and also to stop it from warping and moving about once you've made something out of it. So that's your first stage. Okay, so it can be done in winter, like I said, so that it's got less moisture in it, because trees tend to be a bit more dormant in winter, so they're not drinking up as much water, and therefore it helps the weight go down on the trunks when they're cut. So then we have them as what we can look at as a trunk, okay, a log, and they are then cleared of all of the leaves and little teeny tiny branches, and then they can be stored. So sometimes if you go into a forest, you'll see loads of logs all in there. They're not just left there, they're stored in there until they're needed at the sawmill. Okay. Now finally, when they are transported to the sawmill, it's usually by lorry, but if there's a river available, they can be carried downstream by the river to the sawmill. So once we've got a log and it's ready to be cut, okay, what we're going to do is then, it's called conversion. So you're converting a log into a plank of wood, a workable piece of wood. All right, so once you've got that, you go down to the sawmill, and the sawmill is then going to start trimming it down here, so you can see it's taken off the edges, so everything's flat on the edge there. All right, and then eventually it's going to go through, this is like a circular saw here, and it's going to take it into, from the edge, you see where they're rounded off, into getting a nice squared off piece of timber. And those, obviously, the lengths of these pieces, of these planks, are going to be dependent on the size of the log. Okay, so it's going to be cut. You're then going to maybe have it re-sawn to sort of be more accurate, and it might even get planed, and so that it's nice and smooth. Okay, eventually it goes from being a rough piece of timber or a log into a nice smooth workable piece of timber. And you can see here that I've just put two conversion types up here. So this one here, which is through and through, you can see it literally, the saw is just cut through, all the way through. And you get, in the middle, you've got the biggest piece of timber, and you've also got the edges. Now when that's cut off from there to there, it's going to give you a thinner sort of piece of wood. Okay, so it can be turned into different sizes of timber from that. Now this one is more of a decorative one. You've got what's called quarter sawn, and there you can see how pieces are taken away from it. Okay, so this bit here would be workable, these bits are, and these bits here will have all different types of patination on them. So you're going to get a different look from that kind of cut. Alright, it's more expensive, and you're getting a smaller piece of workable timber from it. Alright, so that's what's conversion. That's what you call conversion. That's when you convert it from a log into a workable piece of timber. Finally, we've got what's called seasoning. Now seasoning is basically drying out those cut boards. Okay, so you've got all your planks, and they're going to be left in a sort of a shed, all stacked up, as you can see here, with little bits of the air can flow through. All right, and that is going to help the moisture be drawn out even more. Because if you've got what's called a green piece of timber, which is one that hasn't been seasoned, it has the potential to warp once it's been made into something, because that moisture will eventually start to come out, and it'll start to make the timber move and twist, and you don't want that. So what you want to do is have it seasoned, so it's as dry as it possibly can be, and it gives you a more precise finish when you are making something. Okay, so you can see here this is like a typical air seasoning shed. It's outside, it allows the wind to blow through it. You've got a roof on it which stops the obviously rain or anything getting on it, and it just slowly takes all the moisture out of the timber, so it allows you to use it. So that is seasoning. That's the last thing that will happen to your timber before you use it. So this week's activity to finish off with all of your timber work is to look at the key facts. Okay, so we've got felling, process of cutting down a tree. You need to use those terms, felling. Green timber, which I've touched upon on the last slide, is when you have a piece of timber that hasn't been seasoned. It hasn't had the water taken out of it. Okay. Conversion, that is another key word, which is your process of sawing a tree trunk into usable planks. And finally, seasoning, process in which timber is dried out to reduce the moisture content. There'll always be a little bit in there, but you want to try and get out as much as you can. So your activity this week is quite simple. I want you to create a fact sheet showing the journey of the tree takes, okay? From the beginning, from where it's a tree in a forest, right up to a finished piece of work, okay? So I want you to use images and text in order to produce an A4 would be big enough, but if you want to go A3, I don't mind, or 2 sides, I don't mind. Just a worksheet explaining the journey a tree takes from felling to becoming a usable plank of timber. Okay, thank you very much.